get the information, and Denise has got more information on it.
Not Denise.
So, after they get all done, we can ask questions.
I might ask what you just told.
Right? You and I,
We'll have public comment at the end, 3 minutes per person, identify yourself and your, where you're from. But we'll do a little presentation first and then give everybody a chance to say their piece. I'll get us kicked off here. So Ranger Power, as if you haven't already downloaded from the website, we'll go over it here briefly. Sapling Solar Project is what they're gonna call the Gustin Township installation. So basically what we're looking at here is, our ordinance requires commercial solar energy systems shall be only allowed in the agricultural, residential district, or the industrial district, as special use approved by the planning commission, and shall meet the following general requirements. All solar energy systems must conform to the provisions of this ordinance and all county, state, and federal regulations and safety requirements, as well as applicable industry standards. Solar energy systems shall be located or placed so that the concentrated solar glare shall not be directed toward or onto nearby properties or roadways at any time of the day. So, Ranger has come with the explanation of compliance pursuant to the Gustin Township Solar Energy Systems Ordinance. The project is defined, get that again. So, the project has been designed to comply with the National Electric Safety Code and the Construction Code standards adopted by the state of Michigan, as well as all provisions outlined in this ordinance. The project will not result in glare that would impact neighboring properties or vehicles on the road. The solar panels that will be used for the project have been designed with an anti-glare coating. A glare hazard analysis did not predict glare to be reflected to any residents, businesses, or roadways. Refer to the project glare study. This information is all available online at our website for download. You can read it there. Moving on here. So the property owner or applicant for commercial solar energy systems shall provide the planning commission with the proof of ownership of the subject property, copy of any lease agreement, a commercial solar energy system, together with an operations agreement which shall set forth the operations parameters, the name and contact information of the certified operator, inspection protocol, emergency procedures, and general safety documentations. And I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Adam Brady, and I am the zoning administrator for Gustin Township. So that's pretty basic information there about applying. Here's some things that are going to be probably hot topics today. Commercial solar energy systems shall be located on parcels of land no less than 20 acres. The applicants understanding this requirement was struck from the Gustin Township Solar Ordinance, see Appendix B, so that was struck down. The commercial solar energy system shall be set back 200 feet from all property lines of non-participating lots. Setbacks will be measured when the panel is in minimum lift. Sapling Solar is applying for a variance to said provision to align with the Michigan statewide siting regulations related to renewable energy projects. In accordance with these provisions, the project will be set back at least 300 feet from dwellings on non-participating properties and 50 feet from all public right-of-way property lines and non-participating lots. So what that means is, and if you look through, we'll look at this as we go on, when you see the site plans, you'll see where there's a carve out around every house that has somebody living in it. So you're 300 feet away from that house. Other than that, it's 50 feet from the property line. That's what they're asking for a variance on.
Excuse me, but this gentleman sitting back next to me just assumed that the ad in last week's paper was that this is the public comment, or whatever it was called, and then there was gonna be a meeting next week for the voting. But
Right.
that's not the case, right? I think that people should know that this isn't the meeting that was publicized.
So today's meeting, due to posting issues and legality, it was required to be posted 15 days prior to the meeting. Corner Review comes out every 7, so we only had 14 days up to this point. So today's meeting is information, same as it was in the paper. Today's is an information meeting only. There's no voting gonna take place today. The board, the planning commission today will vote to plan the next special meeting for October 28th, which will be the official public hearing, but for all intents and purposes, you're hearing the information now. You can come back, we can do that again, that's fine. We will do that again, and you have some chances, once you see this, to maybe have some different comments to make. You'll have more time to digest all this information. Maybe you have some time to go on the website and download, and you could read through it yourselves also. I think this is a good public service in order to let everybody have plenty of time to review all this information. Thank you.
So if there isn't a dwelling now, there is gonna be a dwelling in 2 years, is it 50 feet or 300 feet?
Well, it only applies, well, first of all, let me lay out some ground rules here. Public meetings are really question and answer during the whole time, especially today. It's mainly a presentation of information. But at the end, we'll have 3 minutes for public comment, and you can all have your information to the board here for them to consider. But I'll answer this one since it's on the table. They're not gonna take out solar panels after the fact. It's grandfathered, if you will. I don't know how to say it other than that. Once it's approved for the site, the way it lays out now, it doesn't change after that. Okay, moving on. Commercial energy height is 15 feet maximum. And Ranger Power is planning to comply. Solar devices should be screened year-round from view from any existing residential use in the public right-of-way by use of the screening wall. The project will be, this is the answer from Ranger Power, the project will be adequately screened from existing residential uses and public rights-of-way. All proposed screening will be maintained throughout the life of the project. Next hot topic, the sound pressure level of solar facility and all ancillary solar equipment shall not exceed 45 decibels at the property line of an adjacent non-participating lot. This site plan shall include modeled sound isolines extending from the sound source to the property lines to demonstrate compliance with this standard. They have provided such a study. Sapling Solar, although wants to apply for a variance to make that 55 decibels. I cannot describe to you now what that sounds like, but it does, it is at the property line, that 55 decibels. So, that's one of the other things they're trying to get a variance on. Site plan, we got the commercial. Okay, here's another one. Condition of every approval of a commercial solar energy system shall be adequate provision for the removal of the system whenever it ceases to be used for 1 year or more. In the event that a system has been abandoned, meaning not have been in operation for a period of 1 year, the property owner and developer applicant shall notify the township and shall remove the system within 1 year from the date of abandonment. Removal includes the proper receipt of demolition permit from the building official and proper restoration of the site to the satisfaction of the zoning administrator. The site shall then be filled and covered with topsoil and restored to a state compatible with the surrounding vegetation. So, the answer from Ranger Power, in the unlikely event that the project is left abandoned for 1 year, the project will be decommissioned and removed in accordance with the project decommissioning plan, and the land may be restored to the state compatible with the surrounding vegetation. Anticipated life of the project. I'm sorry. Decommissioning plan will include the following. Anticipated life of the project, the anticipated manner in which a project will be decommissioned, including a description of which above and below grade improvements will be removed, retained, or restored for viable reuse of the property consistent with the zoning district. The estimated decommissioning costs in current dollars, such costs shall not include credit for salvageable value of any materials. The township may require one or more third-party entities to develop a decommissioning cost estimate. If this is required, the township will select the most appropriate estimate. Let's see here. So, Method of ensuring the funds, okay, the method of ensuring that funds will be available for site decommissioning and stabilization in the form of a surety bond, or irrevocable letter of credit or cash deposit. A performance guarantee in the form of a cash deposit, certified check, irrevocable bank letter of credit or surety bond acceptable to the township. The above requirements, as well as additional details, are provided in the decommissioning plan, which is part of the big document package. We have another thing for the proper removal. So Ranger Power will provide a financial guarantee for the expected cost of removal of the system. It can be reevaluated every 10 years to account for inflation. This guarantee will be posted before a construction permit for the facility is received and shall be subject to approval by the township. Sapling Solar understands the surety bond is to remain in place for the length of the lease/contracts until the decommissioning is completed to pursuant to the decommissioning plan. Okay, so in the case that owner of the facility or property owner fails to remove or repair a defective abandoned commercial solar energy system, the township, in addition to any other remedy under this ordinance, may pursue legal action to abate the violation by seeking removal of the solar energy system to recover any and all costs. A response from the solar company Sapling Solar understands that if the commercial solar energy system is not removed or repaired, if defective or abandoned, and the township may pursue legal action to abate the violation, seeking to remove the solar energy systems, recover any and all costs, including attorney fees. So they agreed to that. There's a provision here for if a facility gets repowered or started back up. Also, if they want to reconfigure the system in any way, they'll have to apply for a new special land use permit in order to make that happen. That is the general scope. I want to allow a minute here if any representatives from Ranger Power have any statements or anything they would like to make at this time.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Introduce yourselves if you would. You can come out here so everybody can see you if you would.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out. My name is Hope Winkler. I'm a developer at Ranger Power, managing the Sapling Solar project here in Gustin Township. We have been developing this project for about 2 years now, meeting with landowners to see who is interested in the area, and the project has matured to a point where we are applying for a permit in Gustin Township. We've completed environmental studies and reports to prepare our application in Gustin Township, which is why we're all here today. Tonight is, a public comment session so we can understand concerns or questions that people have regarding the project and our application. And like Adam mentioned, October 28th is when we'll have the public hearing where we'll present on our project and the township will vote on it. But we just wanted to be here as a resource for you guys. We're happy to answer your questions, concerns, anything about the project. We're here.
Okay.
Ask you questions now or no?
Let's wait till during the public comment. We'll do
During
that.
the public comment, we have to ask our questions then?
Yeah.
We can't comment?
In
Yes.
3 minutes, everyone gets to ask their questions.
It's important that we follow that because otherwise, okay, thank you very much. We also have available for a resource tonight is Denise Klein from Northeast Michigan Coalition of Governments. She's the one that helped us to put together our ordinance in the first place and also our solar ordinance. She's involved in a lot of solar projects that are going on right now in northern Michigan. So it's another good resource for information. So I'm going to move on. We're going to go over the sites themselves. Here's the general layout of the whole scenario.
Yeah,
And it's a little more easier to decide as we go down through the pages here, but,
It's gonna be showing.
so the first site, you see M72 in the center there, and McConnell Road. It's basically going to be, surrounding that whole area. You can see up on McConnell Road, the yellow square there is the power storage facility. Everything else is solar panels. As you can see, there's no houses on here to show you that 300-foot offset, but as we move on here, you'll see that. So this is one of the sections of the equipment layout. And then you have, behind that, here's the next section. So if you can see here, McConnell Road and Dewar.
Can you move the mouse around the road so you can see where the roads are?
So here's McConnell Road,
Okay,
here's Dewar Road.
all right,
I'll go back up.
thank you.
So here's M72,
All right,
and here's McConnell Road.
okay.
So you can see here, all this back here is solar. And then, right behind my house here is a whole bunch of solar. And then across McConnell Road, we have it going in. This yellow box right here is the power storage facility. And this would be the first, one of the, nodes of the project. I don't know what else you call it, but that's where I came up with just now. So here's the next section, McConnell Road and Dewar. Piece of property here with some, equipment. And then you have Summers Road and, I can't see what that is. There's one on Summers Road here, which is gonna be oh, I see, this would be over by the power plant. And then we have Summers, way back off the site here from any kind of view. Oh, there's Dewar right there. So Summers and Dewar, so I had that wrong in the first one, sorry about that, guys. And then our next one, this is, we have South McConnell, right here. So here's an example of, if you look right here, where the hand is, see these two buildings right here? And you can see how the solar's offset 300 feet from those buildings. That's that 300 feet radius they're talking about.
Where's that at?
So here's the hand, here's a house right here where the hand is on, bottom left corner.
Yeah, they mean what road?
Let's see, this is South McConnell, and there's not a crossroad showed on here. It's not big enough. Let me see if I can figure it out. Well, we go to the big map. Wow, zoom in here for us here. So this is the first project they talked about.
What is that at, first one?
This one right here is the M72 McConnell intersection, okay?
So where's 41 then, to the right?
F41 is, right here. So you have this node right here, which is buried way off of 41. Not really any sight there. This is the one, so if you come down McConnell here, where's the nearest crossroad? So this is show crossroads here.
We don't very well.
Yeah, it's an elevation back. Probably be better if I use the zoning one. Let's try that.
They can see all these maps on the website.
Oh, yeah, this is all available. The whole package is available for you to look at yourself.
Do you know where it's at on the website, Adam?
When you bring up the page,
Yep.
a big banner comes up, says click here. It's right, first thing when the page comes up, it comes right in your face, says here.
Not on the mobile version, that's why I was trying to pull it up, because I can't see it.
I can't dictate to what it'll be mobile, but they're big files, and it'd be hard to see on your mobile anyway. All right, so where was I? All right. So once again, as I was saying, here's the first project, 72 McConnell. All these parcels right here. Here's McConnell, continue on to Dewar. So on Dewar, about midway across, you have this section right here, and that goes all the way to 41 here. Then over in this part, you have this section, which is back behind Killmaster. You got another one back here, off Fowler. Couple on Fowler. This is a continuous one here. And the biggest, so we're all here in Fowler, F41 and Pecuniar. Big section here with a lot of property owners signed up. We're on cruising. You got a piece. And then as far south as, we got some Tate Road. So you're gonna see, for example, right as you're going to Mankato here, this is all solar in here. Like I said, this is all available on the website, so you can download it. If you can't find it there, I'll give you my email address and I'll give you a link to get it. Am I missing anything, Hope? Important? Okay.
The yellow is the people that are signed up.
No, yellow, this is the zoning map. Yellow is forest, agriculture, and the green's forest rec.
Okay.
The signed up is the highlighted borders, where it has a number inside. 10 acre, well, that's not the acreage, but that's the, so all these highlighted borders are the signed up parcels. There's 14, just over 1,400 acres.
Would the township be willing to print this out for older people that don't have the internet and don't have the capability to download and upload?
Technically, you'd have to pay for a printout, but if there's only 2 or 3 or 4, I'll take care of that for you. But if 20 people want it, I can't take care of that for you. They're large packages, so.
You can make.
Come see me afterwards.
One set available here, they can stop in and see maybe.
That's true. I can put it at the library. But if you want a copy, hard copy, come see me after the meeting and we can talk about it.
This is all day, every day.
That's the basic layout of the project. Let's go into the variance request section here. Okay, so I'm gonna start. This is gonna seem monotonous, but I had no better way to do this than just read it out too. So here's the setback variance request, first of all, and that is applicant's project involves unique land use. Hang on, let me get something good here. So they're asking for, the 2 things they're asking for is the sound level restrictions and the property line restrictions. The Gustin Township ordinance currently states you have to be at 45 decibels maximum sound, and 200 feet from non-participating property lines. Anybody who's not signed up or leasing land for solar, 200 feet, this says right here. Okay, so what they're asking for a change, which would be congruent with the state set ordinance for this particular, for solar setup. So the reasoning, response for sound limit variance. This is a Ranger Power statement. Strict compliance with the sound pressure level under the solar ordinance would unreasonably prevent applicant from using the subject property for permitted purposes. For example, a commercial solar energy system as permitted under the solar ordinance as regulated by PA 233, which is the House bill, right? That's the House bill, Michigan House.
That's the law that was passed
That's the
last
law,
fall.
right.
Yeah.
That's the law that was passed by the state of Michigan. The project design modifications to resources required for strict conformity with the solar ordinance are unduly burdensome in light of PA 233's established sound limitation. Response for the setback variance request. Ranger Power says strict compliance with the setback requirement under the solar ordinance would be unreasonably prevent applicant from using the subject property for permitted purposes. For example, a commercial solar energy system as permitted under the solar ordinance and as regulated by PA 233. The project design modifications and resources required for strict conformity with solar ordinance are unduly burdensome in light of PA 233's establishment. Further, due to the unique circumstance of the project occupying non-contiguous lots, conformity with the 200-foot setback requirement under the solar ordinance renders the project unworkable as currently designed. Here's the response for the sound limit variance request from Ranger Power. Granting the requested variance to provide for the increased sound limit from 45 decibels to 55 decibels would do substantial justice to the applicant, as it would enable the applicant to permit the project locally in collaboration with the township, which is beneficial to all parties. The project will not produce any impactful sound that would create any hazardous or disturbing impacts on the surrounding area. The project has been designed to minimize audible sound at non-participating parcel boundaries by siting project inverters centrally within the participating parcels. So by the inverters, they mean what's going to make the sound, the primary cause of the sound. As demonstrated by the project's sound modeling study, which you can look up, sound levels will not exceed 55 decibels from an adjacent non-participating residence in full compliance with the requirements of PA 233. Further granting of lesser variance than requested would not provide substantial relief, as the applicant's request is tailored to the exact requirements of PA 233. So I'm going to read this. This is Ranger Power's commentary on the response for the setback variance request. Applicant's request for a variance from the 200-foot setback under the solar ordinance to a 50-foot setback will not cause an adverse impact on surrounding property, property values, or the use and enjoyment of property in the neighborhood or agricultural residential district. The project will produce no odor, dust, vibration, smoke, or other nuisance situations. The project has been designed to minimize audible sound at non-participating parcel boundaries by siting project inverters centrally within participating parcels, as demonstrated in the project sound modeling study. Accordingly, this requested setback variance will not impair adequate supply of light and air to the adjacent properties, unreasonably increase the congestion of public streets, or in any other respect impair the public health, safety, comfort, morals, or welfare of the inhabitants of the township. You can see the glare study that they provided. They also have some examples of solar facilities of similar size and similar rural areas in Michigan across the Midwest have consistently been shown to have no measurable impact on property values in the surrounding area? That's another question.
That's everybody's land.
But I understand it's a passionate topic, but you gotta give me a chance to say my piece before we get all angry, okay? So just give me a chance here. Conclusion, we respectfully request that the above analysis and attached supporting evidence be considered by the ZBA and the applicant's variance request be approved, subject to any reasonable conditions, limitations set by the ZBA. The variance requests are necessary to avoid the practical difficulties that will be experienced by the applicant if strict compliance with sound limits, setback requirements of solar ordinance are required. So, I've covered the layout of the site. We talked about the requested variances. Denise, is there any information that we should also be discussing right now in accordance with this?
I think, let people give their comments, and then maybe there's questions we can answer.
Okay. We'll do this. I apologize, but you will be timed. It's 3 minutes per question. Stand up, state your name and your what township you're from. And we can start, whoever wants us to go first here, raise a hand. Yes?
Muriel Goddard from Gustin Township, and you all know me, this is very hard for me to do in front of, but I wrote it down. I'm going to voice some of my concerns for you to be thinking about before the October 28th meeting. I'm very concerned about the environment, especially since the Pine River runs through some of the leased land. I believe we as residents of Gustin Township need to demand an environmental study. Do we want to end up like Wordsmith down the road? Also, after our last township meeting, when the Mankato Township Supervisor and the Mankato Township Fire Chief came to the meeting and pointed out the hazards of a fire at one of these sites, we need to do some further investigating to see how we are protected as to the increased costs. But money is not my biggest concern. They said if a fire starts, there will have to be an evacuation plan set out. But my concern, of course, is for our residents. But what about the family pets, cattle, and horses? Please, I feel we need to slow down and make sure the residents are protected.
Yes, please.
Kim Sutherland, Mankato Township. I was just wondering, what are the plans? Gustin Township doesn't have its own fire department. You use Mankato's and Lincoln's, from what I was told. Who's going to put this out? All we have are a couple of water trucks. Who's going to control this situation if we do have a major fire? What's the plan? They don't have one.
We'll get to that, for sure. I'm taking all the questions out now, we'll go back there.
Terry Goldstone, Gustin Township. So I'm under the impression we're going to need special fire equipment to put out this fire if we have it. Who's going to pay for this? Is it going to be put on the rest of us taxpayers, even if we're not in favor of this? Or do the people that sign up to have the solar panels, do they get taxed heavier since they're bringing this into the community?
Thank you. Anyone? Yes, please.
Jamie Smith. I was wanting to say that a commercial solar project of this size and complexity needs to be completely investigated and understood before being permitted. The board should form a task force with representatives from each interested party, both the adjacent owners and the participating owners. It's my understanding that we have 120 days from the date of receiving the application to accept or deny it. So I'm wondering why we're doing it on October 28th. We should have 4 months to go through this application, make a mindful decision as a community rather than just ramming this through. And the board needs to declare, in my opinion, a moratorium on this plan so that we have time to go through it and everybody gets to come to a conclusion that they either want to do it or we don't want to do it, and what kind of remediation can be made or offered to adjacent owners if we do go forward with it for drops in property value, which does happen What they have presented in their reports that are downloaded online are not complete. There are studies that show, peer-reviewed studies that show decreases in property value up to 4% to 5.6%, especially in rural communities like we have. And I don't understand why we are not just letting Ranger apply to the state of Michigan for their certification to do this, why we're trying to jump in the middle of it, because none of us really know what we're doing. I would assume the state of Michigan would know more than we know. But I would like to request that we pass a moratorium on this and then develop a task force and go through this over the next 4 months and then come to a decision as a community.
Thank you. Next.
Dr. Bob Turek, Harrisville Township. I am inquiring if either the Planning Commission or the board itself has made time for opponents of this plan to speak. The young lady here from Ranger said she has been given time, not only tonight, and I believe she'll probably answer some questions. Have the Planning Commission or the board made time for opponents to speak to you at an equal amount? Because if you're really trying to get information, you should be getting both sides, not just the proponent, but the opponent to that. And I would also ask, has either the Planning Commission or Township Board, are they under the impression that they can be personally sued if they do not go along with this plan? I'd be curious if somebody has led them to believe that, because that's utterly preposterous, I think we all know, or we would have no officials working for us if they thought they could be personally sued if they go against this company or the state. I would just address that if anybody has said that. And then the third thing is, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if the Planning Commission and the township does nothing, then the state comes in. So I'm wondering, what have you gotten out of Ranger to make it in the township's best interest to give them, grant the variances? It seems to me they're asking for things from you. It should be the opposite. You should be asking for concessions from them. Otherwise, you can go to the state. They can go to the state. If you, as the Planning Commission or the township board members, are against this, you need do nothing more than to do nothing. And then the state will take over. If you're not sure if your constituents are in favor of this, if you do nothing, the state will take over. You're not required to do anything. You're not opposing it. You would just do nothing. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Ryan? Mike Goddard, Gustin Township. My concern also, if they start hauling all this stuff in there, our roads are in good shape. We paid millage for them, keep them roads, and from what I hear, it's not good when they're done. They tear up the roads as they do it, and something should be in there if this does happen to fix the roads.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Jerry Kraft, Gustin Township. I can tell you right now, I'm against this completely. I think that it affects our habitat, not only with our deer, but all our animals. And I don't know where the DNR stands on this. I'd like to see what they have to say about it. I know a lot of us don't like the DNR, I shouldn't say us, I don't mind them, but I think the DNR has some good things to say. I'd like to see what their thoughts on the matter are. It also, somebody else mentioned, I think it affects the land prices and property prices. I don't agree that it doesn't affect that. And if you want to take a look at how these things look, I went up to Kanabis last weekend, and along M65 on County Road 638, if you want to see what these farms look like, take a ride up there and look at them. I urge you to do that. I drove by it with another couple, and all I could say was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the people in the back seat kept saying, and look, it's as far as you can see. Look, Jerry, look. I mean, we were all of us shocked at the vision we were looking at. That's not the vision I want for this township. So I urge you to go take a look at them if you haven't seen what these things look like.
Just what is that, 65?
Pardon me?
What about at 65?
County Road 638 is what you want to drive down by M65. Rogers City area. And the question I have is, I don't think this is this plan that you've laid out here, it's just the beginning.
It is.
Is there an end? Is this it, the final? Or can we envision more parcels being added? What's the end to this? That's a question I have, okay? And I don't see any finality to this. They can just keep adding and adding and adding and adding until we don't have any more. And another question I have is, we say, okay, this is just farmland. What about my neighbor across the street from me who just had his forest clear cut? Now, can that enter into this program too? So if you think you've just got a forest all around you and you'll never see this, can they clear cut it and then put this up? There's a lot of questions. We could be surrounded by these things. I'm definitely against this.
Let me answer one question. I'm in Old State, it's signed that has state land clear cut for solar.
They're cutting state land, state forest. They've got so much of the state.
Let's, can you?
Thousands of acres.
Thousands of acres.
Next comment, please. Yes.
Sandy Von Pinto, Gustin, and Haynes. I live in Haynes on 23, and I want to address a sound problem. Because a few years ago, they redid US 23. They made parallel lines on the white lines, which caused a terrible howling. We had them come check, the state of Michigan, the decibels, and even though they were waking up at night, us, and scaring people and everything, they said these decibels are permissible. So I would be very cautious on what their decibel is, ask them to produce the sounds that they're looking for, because their decibels are high.
Thank you. Next. Oh, sir. Yes, please.
I'm Gary Vickers. I'm from downstate, but I have 80 acres up here that I come up to. It's my sanctuary. How about that? So I have property throughout the country. I have some in Kansas and some in Missouri. I can tell you firsthand, I have solar, and I can tell you it hit my property values 20%, not 5, 20. And you are right on the decibels. It is awful. I can tell you guys this is something you don't want. So my question to you is, what study did they produce that proved on property values? Because it's not true in other areas of the country. I can guarantee you that.
Next, please.
Hi, I'm Laura Whiting. I'm here in Gustin Township. I'm going to hit on some things that some other people have said. One being, why is only the solar company and NIMCOG here to present, answer questions? Both sides of an issue should have equal time. So far, I've been to 5 or 6 township meetings this year where NIMCOG and the solar people were present. No one, and no environmentalists, no MTA representatives have been at the meetings, so that no one opposing this or giving information about any of the negatives has ever presented to the township board, to the zoning board, or in this meeting here. That is not only unjust, it is irresponsible of this township board and the zoning commission to hold a vote on the 28th without having a meeting, at least one meeting, where opponents are asked to represent and give the reality of the environmental impact, the real estate impact, the noise impact. Anybody here have a generator? That's the sound you're going to be hearing if you live next door to one of these things. That's the decibel level. No joke. 24/7. So I'm calling out the board and the zoning commission for negating their due diligence, not only in this matter, but also, have you done your own studies? Are you only going by what the solar company has provided you? Because that's irresponsible as well. Why have you not conducted your own environmental impact studies? Why have you not hired an engineering firm, an electrical engineering firm, to review what they have presented to you? This is a business. You are entering a contract with this business by allowing to adjust your zoning laws. And you are giving them everything that they want, and you have asked for nothing in return. They can easily, and they have said so in the general meetings that I have attended, they have shrugged their shoulders and said, we don't have to be here. We can wait and let the state take over. Well, they might as well, because you have asked them for nothing, absolutely nothing, to protect private citizens' rights who are adjacent buildings to this. And what he didn't read to you, which is in, if you go online and you read through the proposal, it doesn't say at the property line they're asking for 55 decibels. It says to the side of the adjacent building, living dwelling, not the property line.
What?
He did not read that. Go online and read it for yourselves. So, that's in their proposal. So, and the final thing that I'm going to ask is if anyone on the board, the zoning administrator, or any of their family members, will they profit from this going in? Because if so, they should be recusing themselves from the entire process. So, that's it.
Then let's start at the top of the list. Let's talk about fire coverage. Several people brought up fire coverage. Pope and the team from Ranger, do you guys have any commentary on that situation?
Yeah, we'll come up to the...
Yeah, absolutely, thank you. Just so you know, we contract with Mankato Township and Village of Lincoln.
I hear you.
Okay. The project representative with Ranger Power as well. So the question is around fire and emergency response plan. So I would just say for this plan in general, we're still a ways off from starting construction here. Before we start construction on this project, which we're planning to do in 2027, it's going to have to be coordination between our company and a lot of different agencies, including the local fire department, also the road commission, the Drain Commission, and Eagle at the state. So I would just say that, this permit is one of the first steps in this project moving forward. There is still a lot more coordination that's going to have to be done with a lot of different agencies, including the fire department, to get this project ready.
Why would we sign a thing to let you get a permit if we have no knowledge of what's
Nothing,
going
gotta know
on?
what's going on.
That's right.
Nothing.
That's gotta be.
We need a plan.
That's right.
Yep, so we submitted a plan. So
No, you didn't submit a fire plan.
Right. So
what are you going to do in the event of a fire?
Yep. So
are you going to depend on us to put the fire out?
Too small.
Or are we going to wait for you to send federal government in and then watch everything burn and kill everybody? What are we waiting? Yeah, fill them with no one.
We need to keep it civil, okay? I understand this is a passionate topic, I really do, but it needs to stay civil. If it gets aggressive, I'm gonna have to ask you to stop with your comment, your question. We're kind of going out of bounds here to even allow you to have a speak back here. We're actually going way out of bounds to have them answer questions that I've written down. But I'm allowing this because Robert's rules in this house works, right? Just keep it civil, please, I beg you. That's all I'm asking.
Question regarding the fires.
It's not appropriate, but go ahead.
What is your past experience with fires in your systems?
Yep, so we've developed a handful of projects across Michigan and around a dozen across the Midwest. We have not experienced any issues with fires on any of our projects. That being said, we do coordinate with local fire departments just in the event that there is a fire. I mean, it is an electrical facility. So in the event that there is a fire, we do coordinate with appropriate officials ahead of time just to mitigate that type of risk. One aspect of that is planning out haul routes and entrances throughout the project area to make sure that the local fire department is aware of how to access the site in case there is an event. But we have not experienced those events on the projects that we've developed.
Denise, if you would, I know we talked about another representative from NEMCOG who's going to reach out to the road commission and the local fire supporters, and he's going to help them with applying for the funds and everything they would need for
Yeah,
training.
and
Go ahead,
I
if you
don't
would.
have an answer on that, so I asked our transportation planner if he would meet with the road commission. And now the fire, I don't know that, I can ask him to do that. That's a little out of our specialty, but he can, I can ask him to do that just to get an idea as to what's needed. I mean, that's the whole point, right? What's needed? He's got a little bit more experience with like the Prescott County facility in terms of what road damage was done, the amount of money that was put up to fix the road damage. I'll ask him about the fire,
Okay.
Actually, our director is a fire chief also.
Right.
So I may ask him instead to set up some meetings and get some talking going on about it, if that helps.
So between now and the 28th, we
Yep.
can get some information together
Yeah.
for the planning commission to be able to look at and consider. What was the other one? There's fire and there's the other one that was brought up. Oh, road damage. Oh, we covered that too. Okay. Okay, next question. It was fire and so Jamie Smith asked, why hasn't the township made a task force? If we could have a task force, sorry, my bad, this is my bad shorthand here. Why wouldn't we just let the state of Michigan be in charge? That was asked somebody else. And the property values and the study. So let's start with property values, and you guys did provide a study, it's available on the website. Where was that study? What was the information, how did that come about? How did you put that together in order to give any kind of guidance to the people here?
Sure. So we contracted with a company called Cohn Resnick to prepare a property value impact study on this particular project area within the township. The way that they look at whether these projects are going to impact property values is by using a paired sales analysis. So they look at around a dozen other similar type of solar projects across the country. And they look at what happens in terms of property values, what happened to the time it took to sell houses in areas where projects were located. And then they looked at similar areas where there were no solar projects. So from looking at areas with no projects and areas with projects, they compare the results between two similar areas. What they find is that there is not an impact on property values based on proximity to these projects. So I understand that it's, I do understand that it's an emotional issue, which is.
My house is surrounded by solar, it's definitely going to impact it, come on.
Yeah, it does, I can tell you guys for a fact.
If you
It
can't,
does.
if you have to allow them to answer the
I heard
questions.
you say you had a solar farm, so why did you contribute to the cause then? You said you had
No, I
property.
have property in the Midwest that is surrounded by solar that got impacted by over 20%. Fact.
What about the other studies that I talked about?
Sorry?
There's one study in 23 where properties in rural areas were impacted if they were within a mile of one of these arrays by upwards to at least 5.6%.
I haven't read the study that I haven't read the one that you're referring to. What I can say is the reason why we conducted a study of this project in particular is because we did want to have data and a point of reference for how the expert that we contracted felt that this project might impact these homes in this area. So I just want to finish my thought. I understand that this is an emotional topic, which is why we wanted to get data from an expert in this field to determine how this would impact home values. So it's not coming from us, it's coming from a third-party expert that we hired to look into this topic further.
Could you tell us where your expert is located that gave this information to you?
It's a company called Cone Resnick. I don't have their physical address off the top of my head, but
Are they in Michigan?
they're not.
They're not in Michigan. If I'm doing real estate in Elkhorn County and going to sell, I'm asking a local realtor what the values of my property are. So you have no idea what state these people are in that are giving values to Elkhorn people.
So I would just say the report that they did conduct here does look at a lot of different projects throughout Michigan as well, including a project that we developed in Shiawassee County. And they do interview local assessors and real estate agents for the report.
But why is it that you don't even know where they're located?
It's a large national firm. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what their address for the state they're located is in, but I'll find it and I'll get you the information afterwards.
The interviews with the realtors in Shiawassee, that was all anecdotal information. That was not, that was just, that's not even scientific information.
Oh yeah, and I understand one project alone is anecdotal, but this is why they look at many projects in
But when you
aggregate.
look at the ones in Minnesota, which would be more applicable to our area, Chisago Lake, and those areas that are all rural like we are, their property values went down at least 4 to 5%.
I'd be happy to take a look at the study you're talking about after the meeting, but I
Do you
can't speak
think that
to it
Ranger
here.
Power would consider reimbursing adjacent property
They're not
owners that 4 to 5% at least?
No,
No. Why not?
because we don't feel that there will be an impact on property values based on the data that we've conducted on the site.
But what if there's other data?
I think that's why we conducted a study on this particular project area, was so that we would have the data as a reference point.
But even your data says little.
We're
to
kind of
no.
commentary in
What about
circles here.
little?
Let's move on,
Yes, let's move on.
please.
So we can't nail anything.
Because this isn't
No,
really
that's,
public comment.
we're going to a little commentary circle here. It's the same question and the same answer, so.
He's giving you the same
Get some
answer
other
every
things.
time.
Right.
This is a pro-solar appointment.
It's a simple question, guys. So your property values around here, you know what they are. 3,000 an acre, 4,000 an acre, whatever it is. Ask the question, why were they offering 10 to 12? Simple question.
Okay, but let's keep it in turn here, if you would, please. Next, let's see, we talked about property values.
I have a question. I didn't sign up for the solar panels, but I signed up for transmission lines to hook your project up. Like after they're done with the project, if the solar thing lasts 30 years or 50 years, however long, will the transmission lines be removed or will it stay buried under my farm tile, or what's going to happen there?
Yes, I can speak to it. That's within the agreement with the landowner, so it would be, subject to how it was negotiated with the landowner.
So how good of an attorney did you have when you signed that paperwork?
Well, I mean, I don't care. I don't care if the line is.
There's different preferences. Some landowners would prefer the panels to be removed. Some would rather their land not be disturbed a second time if they're buried deep enough into the soil. So it was the preference of the landowner.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about. Are they going to be a hazard 100 years from now or not?
No, and this is a very well-studied topic. This infrastructure is not new. It's been around for a long time, and there's plenty of proven data that there's no dangers to these types of collection lines or anything like that. It's no concerns with electromagnetic fields, anything like that. It's very well-studied, and there is no threat to a landowner or a resident in the surrounding area.
They generally buried between 4 and 6 foot deep, I heard.
It depends on soil type and how it can be constructed, but typically somewhere around that range.
Okay. The next topic, I would like to ask for Denise input. And it's on the spot, so whatever you can pull up out of your head there.
Good.
So there's been several comments made about what if we just let the state handle it? What does that look like? What is that?
Well, I mean, if the state handles it, for one thing, the variances they're asking for, they're gonna get there. They're not variances at the state. That's what's in the state law. The variances they're asking for are matching what the state law says. So they're gonna get those. What else? So what doesn't the state require? They don't require screening.
Correct.
And what is their decibel amount?
There is what they're asking for, 55, at the building line. So it's exactly the same.
See, building.
So what's the difference? Why not, so they're asking why not just hands off here so that you're not to blame and let the state do it? That's kind of what I'm hearing. So that's, I mean, that's for you to decide if that's the way you want to handle it. But they don't require screening. I'm not saying that Ranger Power wouldn't build the screening anyways.
But it's not
the state,
enforceable.
the state doesn't require, the state's not gonna say you gotta have screening. I get, that's personally the one that pops up in my head.
They don't have to spend the money for it.
Their screening is twice.
Denise, can I ask you a question? So if we vote it down, it goes to the state, they approve it no matter what we vote?
Yes, but it
I
takes
mean,
over
I
a year.
can't say what's gonna happen,
Slows them
but
down.
Gives you more time to fight.
That's right. And the MTA gets involved. They don't know anything about them.
it's gonna,
We need to talk about it. If we okay it or not, what's the chance of somebody or the state come back and sue a zoning member
They can't.
if we're doing it the wrong way?
Is there, that question was brought up. There's no legal ramifications.
so that's an attorney question, we probably should.
Okay, that's an attorney question.
Oh, she answered it before, general.
Can I ask something? You didn't answer my question about why we're not taking 120 days to approve this. Why October 28th? We have 120 days to approve the application or deny it,
From when?
from when you got it.
Just,
So why are we rushing into October 28th?
We received it in August.
You didn't
It's
receive
in
it.
August.
But you got the application in August?
Yes.
They didn't tell
And you
anybody.
just downloaded it for us to see now?
Yep.
It's been
Oh,
there
no.
for,
Oh, no.
I don't remember the date I put it on there, but,
It's only been there a couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
right, time for the public hearing.
Yeah,
But,
gets better and better.
okay, so, no.
So, okay, so you have, okay, if you got it in August, you would have 120 days, it's 4 months unless I'm wrong. So you would have September, October, November, December.
Yep.
Before you have to give an answer, one way or the other. So why are we going October 28th? Why?
Because that's when he wants.
Did you just?
I'll talk to you after.
Talk to her now.
Tell us all.
Tell us all.
Zoning administrator, so all of my responsibility here is enforcement. These guys make the rules and do the voting.
Then why are
The
you
township
running the
board.
meeting?
And your voices are being heard, trust me, and we'll vote either to do it or not to do it, with everything that you said. Yeah, that's very well appreciated, let me say. And I think myself and all of us up here will take it to heart and consider, if I may, I didn't interrupt you. We have not voted within the 120 days. It might become a case where it does go to the 120 days. Your opinion has been heard more than once, so thank you.
Are you saying that no matter what you decide, it's going to the state? Because that's what it sounds like.
That's pretty much, you're reading that true, yeah.
Well,
And that's out of our control. That's out of your control, it's out of my control. The state has a law that will allow them to do it.
If you don't issue the permit, they still have the right to go ahead and do it?
Yep.
But it takes, through the state, it takes them almost 2 years to go through the application process, and the state has a lot of hoops they have to jump through.
That's right,
That's why they don't want to go through the state. That's why they want to push it through here.
Getting railroaded.
Brought up and questioned by several people was, why hasn't the township brought forward experts opposed to solar? So, like I said, I'm just a zoning administrator, but I don't think it's the responsibility of the township board to hire
It's your
people.
responsibility to discriminate. Sorry, folks, I can't stand this anymore.
Well, thanks for coming, appreciate it. Glad you're part of it. Regardless, there's nothing in the zoning ordinance that says equal time has to be given for hired opinions that are against an application legally. Responsibility of the planning commission and the township board members would be to consider it thoughtfully, yes. The fact that there hasn't been people brought in to oppose it, I mean, that's kind of what tonight's about, for sure. Not kind of, exactly what it's about.
If you care so much about it, why don't you pay for it?
There's people that will come in for free, and if they would know, but they have to put it on the agenda.
Why don't
They
you
have
reach
not
out
put
to
it
them
on the
if you're so
agenda. People
passionate
have
about it?
asked.
Why don't
People
you
have
do the
asked.
due diligence and reach out to them?
Okay,
I have. People have asked for them to put it on the agenda, and
we
they
can't,
won't put
we
it on the
can't
agenda.
carry on this road. It's gonna turn into a brawl, and I don't want that here. So, let's see, what else do we have? Road damage, we covered that to a degree, where we will find information between now and the 28th. NEMCOG will help us to acquire some information. I have personally spoken to Jesse from the road commission here, and he is also pursuing ways to get funding for, in fact, the day I received the application, I gave him a copy, so he's got all the information. We had, Mankato Fire Department came to one of our meetings. We have had some conversation with those guys. They have all the plans. Like I said, we'll put together information for the planning commission to be sure they have in front of them before the 28th. As far as bringing the DNR in, for I guess a natural impact for deer and wildfowl, or wildlife. I don't know, is that typically done, Denise? Is that something that other townships have
We can ask.
done?
They didn't in Prescott County, but it doesn't mean you can't.
Okay. So we can look into that and see if they want to come and talk to us. So we have the township board meeting coming up the third Monday of the month here. We can see if somebody wants to come over and have a chat about that. Let's see. Sound problem. Study on property values. EDA. Oh, okay, let's address this last one. Is there any members of this board that is profiting from these solar projects? Have any leases signed? Do we have anybody on the township board, Pam, that has leases signed or profitability for this?
We do not.
Okay. I also do not have any property. I have 5 acres, so it's not gonna work for me, but they're right in my backyard, so. Yeah, go ahead.
To rangers, what happened with the Fort Gratiot program? They denied you your application, and what happened to that project?
So we submitted an appeal of that denial.
To who?
To appeal the decision for the denial. Just to be clear, I can't really speak to the status of the litigation on that project at all. Yeah, we really can't comment on
We
it.
weren't the developers on the project, so we're not able to speak
It said
to
Ranger
the
was.
status. Us, ourselves.
Oh, but just to be clear, Fort Gratiot denied your application. That's correct. That's what I
You've asked
heard.
that 3 times now.
So what?
She's not talking to you, dude.
Let's not cross talk,
Yeah,
please.
it's gonna de-evolve here pretty quickly.
So, can I just finish asking them?
The same question?
Let's do this. You know
Can you
what?
back off?
Listen, everybody. I'm sure they're gonna hang out for a few minutes afterwards, and you can can get
I just wondered
absolutely
what
ask
happened to that
particular
project
questions.
after
They
it
may
was
not
denied.
know, they may not know.
Yeah, I don't have information on that.
Sir?
One of the questions I asked that you didn't address now
Yeah, please.
was this, I said, I don't know how I phrased it exactly, but if this gets voted on and passed, and they're not starting in 2 years, this could actually double in size, for instance.
Oh, yeah, I would like to speak to that. There's in fact, I have been approached by Consumers Energy. They have a $900 acre project they want to apply for next year. It's not official, it's not, so yes, the answer to your question is yes, there is a potential for more.
So there's no size limit. What you're looking at here is just nothing.
This could be the start of a lot.
It's a
yes,
start.
Correct.
It could double, triple, whatever you want.
Because other companies are going to come in and like, for example, I've already met with Consumers Energy with their team, and they're going to apply sometime next June.
So I think everybody needs to bear that in mind.
Question.
Yes.
I'm Candy Gosher, Gustin Township. For, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, I got involved with the Gustin Township Board, and they had asked me to sit in on the zoning board. And I was like, okay, you know. Nobody else showed up at the meetings. Nobody volunteered. We had to beg, borrow, and plead to get people to come to meetings, to sit on boards. And I understand it because there's been times when I didn't do much either. We got notice that if we didn't have some kind of ordinance in place that we were going to fall under the state's guidelines. I don't know about you. I don't want to fit under Lansing's guidelines. I want the people in our township to have a say in what happens here. So everybody's like, well, Candy, let's start coming up with an ordinance. And so I did some research. I pulled some ordinances from some different counties and some different areas and said, I need to work on something. I tweaked it a little bit, talked to different board members, what fits our community. We have to have something in place because these solar projects were going to be coming into our area. If we didn't have it, Lansing decided what happened. So I started coming up with stuff. We played with it a little bit. I finished up the ordinance, was brought to the board. They made some adjustments to it. Denise Klein worked with us trying to help us tweak it because I've never written an ordinance before. And then people started coming out of the woodwork. And they want to point fingers and they want to say, you aren't taking us into consideration. I want to say that everybody on this board cares what's going on in this community. I don't want the solar farms here either. I can promise you that. I did sign that they can run a transmission line underneath my property. I am having no part of the panels on our farm. That was all after I wrote the ordinance, by the way. I see the deviations that they are asking for. I don't like them. We put a lot of time into this ordinance, and I really feel like we need to consider not passing it as they're asking us to deviate from our ordinance. I did address road conditions following projects, and Ranger Power's like, we'll get them back to the condition. That was something that I had in there. The fire department, we did address that. We need to have extra equipment. We need to have specialized training. There's so much that we need to have. But I want you to know that this committee of the zoning board and the township board are not trying to bamboozle you. We have had a huge thing thrown in our laps that we've never had to deal with before. Okay?
This is new to everybody.
It is. And so, but I really don't want somebody in Lansing deciding what happens in my backyard.
I think it would be wise to do, while everybody's still sitting here, if you thought of any questions, the last couple of minutes while we're all talking, if you would, get any more questions for Ranger or the representative from the Northeast Michigan Coalition of Governments? Yes, please.
So a quick question. We were talking about asking for variances and things like that, and I feel like we're looking at black and white.
Can I have your name first?
Sandy Hartman, Gustin Township. I feel like we're looking at black and white here. You know, the ordinance as it sits says one thing, the request is something else. Is there a middle of the road that we can get to? Instead of the 55 decibels at the house, can we do 55 decibels at the property line? Would that be reasonable? That's a question for you guys.
Look at this.
Yeah, absolutely, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Potentially. So the application we submitted here is in line with the state requirements. So off the top of my head, I can't say whether or not we'd be able to meet a middle ground between that. We would need to go back and kind of relook at our site again. So I don't want to give a definitive answer until we've done that.
Other than the inverters being in the middle of the property, is there other remediation that takes place to deaden the sound, so to speak? Is there anything that can be done?
The main way, so the way that we go about finding the placement of the inverters is figuring out kind of the sound contours. So, you know, when you're 300 feet away, what's that dBA level? When you're 400 feet away, what's that dBA level? So by getting those sound contours, that gives us an idea of how many feet of setbacks we're going to need from any receptors, in these case houses, to achieve 55 dBA. So just because of that, I mean, naturally the inverters are going to be located as far away from homes as possible, which is going to put them in the middle of these farm fields rather than toward the perimeter by the roads or other houses.
How many of them inverters do you have in a 100-acre field?
I would say it varies. You might see.
What I seen in Shiawassee was rows of them.
Yeah, I would say in a 100-acre field you might see 4 to 6 ballpark.
Is there a reason you don't bury them?
The inverters? Yeah, it's not industry standard. I think it's based on the electrical code, but I wouldn't be able to speak to it off the top of my head.
I have a question for Ranger. It's kind of a three-part question. You have to remove the topsoil to put in some kind of a base to put your solar panels in. So my question is, if you're moving that topsoil anyway, first of all, are you paying the farmers for removing the topsoil that is worth a fortune? Number two, where does it go if you're removing it? Are you making money off of it that the farmer's not making money off of? Number three, if you're moving the topsoil anyway, wouldn't the most sound deadening thing be earth at the property lines, which you're moving the soil anyway? Couldn't you create berms and then put the bushes on the berms for a site issue? And the berm would be sound deadening? I mean, if you're moving soil anyway, it seems like a no-brainer.
So we are not removing topsoil.
You're not going to remove any topsoil? Okay.
Correct. And I would just say, to answer the second part of your question, part of the reason for that is because the entire project area is maintained with a permanent vegetative cover. So we have to have adequate topsoil to accommodate the ground cover at all times. To your point about berming, it's really not common at all on these projects to include berming. The main concern is stormwater impacts. So when you create channeling for stormwater, that has a major negative impact on the quality of the ag land. So berming really doesn't work.
So if a person has a 60 acres that they want to lease to you, what is their benefit? What is their payout? What do they get? Because we've not talked about anything money-wise.
You don't have to answer that question.
Yeah.
That's private information between the leaser and the lessee.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. So everybody's deal could be different.
That's a legal question we're not going to talk about tonight. I'll answer that one right now. We're not going to go there.
Do you have any projects, or have you done any projects where you have got the permits through the state of Michigan?
We have not, no. Michigan just,
It's just starting in November.
yeah, so they put forth these regulations governing utility scale solar, wind, and battery projects last year, and so that will go into effect in November. And so that state process isn't open until November.
So you haven't been through that process yet with the state?
That is correct. No, nobody has. It comes into effect in November.
Anybody else?
Is the Sapling Solar, that part of Ranger Power, or I never heard of it?
Sapling Solar is the project name that Ranger Power is the developer of.
But not the owner?
That's correct.
Who's the owner?
Right now, it's not known.
It's not known.
That's just the way that these projects are developed. Ranger Power is a developer, so that means, from finding landowners that are interested in participating up until when the project is undergoing construction. We're funded by a company based out of New York that is oftentimes the long-term owner and operators of our projects. They're one of the largest owner and operators of renewable projects in the U.S.
And that's E.E. Shaw, right?
That is correct.
I think a lot of us were under the impression that Ranger Power would own this, but that's not true.
We are a developer, so we don't own the projects ourselves, but we are funded by DESRI, like you had mentioned, and so oftentimes they are long-term owners and operators of our projects, but that's not set right now.
And where will the electricity go?
That's also a part of how these projects operate once they're owned and producing power. So these projects can enter into long-term contracts where a utility can purchase the power from it. So right now that's not decided.
So there's really not, is there a benefit electricity-wise to the people of Gustin Township?
No.
These projects, they connect into the transmission grid, so, whether that's owned by consumers, DTE, or a similar entity, that would decide, what lines we're connecting into and where the power would be in the state.
Yes.
I have a question for the zoning commission. Has any of you been given MTA training? That's Michigan Township Association training on your rights and how to develop your board and this specific issue, because they have a lot of training available on this issue. They have representatives that will come and speak to the townships on this issue that are attorneys that are specialized in this issue. So that's a question for you as the zoning commission members, and if not, to ask the board, the township board, why not? And especially before a very important vote. You should have as much information as possible.
Okay, thank you. Taking into consideration.
One
Yes.
last question. You sent us out this letter we got the other day, and it had several addresses that were invited to this meeting or informed. Can you give us a percentage of that, who are for and are looking to lease?
You don't have that kind of information, right?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
I guess she's looking for what percentage of
The
people that
letter,
are for it versus.
the letter I have is a bunch of property,
Those are parcel numbers that are
tax numbers,
participating.
tax ID numbers.
Those that are participating.
But that doesn't mean they're in the project, it could be just transmission lines too.
That's correct, any parcel.
Anybody else? Mr. Perry?
I think we established that they're asking to raise the decibels to 55 and change the setback. They're asking for that variance, or however you want to phrase it, which is exactly what they would get from the state if you did nothing. And I might have missed, what did you get in the way of concessions from them that would make it worth your while do this yourself as opposed to letting the state and have it handled for a year or two, however long. What concessions have they made? I thought I heard something about screening. Was there a list of things that you have asked them to do in order for you to approve this? And what were those things that they've agreed to do for you?
That was the ordinance that we had in place, that we put into place, which included screening, that was putting up trees and shrubbery so we could not have to look at it as much. And we have higher expectations out of them than what the state has.
To answer your question, we can put together that list. I don't have one in front of me right now, the exact list of what those information is, but we can get that gathered up and have it before the board. Yes, ma'am.
I just had one. Who puts together the information to be sent out to the non-participating parcels? How do you find the non-participating parcels? Because personally, I talked to my neighbor this morning, and she never received a letter, and she is adjoining she's a non-participating, adjoining a property that was leased.
Yeah, so we send out notices to any parcel that's within 300 feet of the project boundary. That's the requirement from statute, state statute. So anyone that was within 300 feet of the project received a notice. And we...
Their property or their house?
Their property, a property
Yeah,
line.
because she abuts a leased parcel, and she did not receive the letter like that she should have received.
Yeah, we sent out notices and we got those addresses from the county GIS website. So they should have been sent out and received. But
Or use the county GIS information?
that is correct.
Okay. GIS is the county database with has all the parcels and addresses. Anybody else?
What benefits will Ranger give to the community? Any public parks, bike paths, playgrounds, anything like that? I didn't see that in your plan.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to it. These projects generate substantial tax base to the local community from including these parcels and the project. So it creates additional revenue that can go towards things like recreation, parks, and other essential services, schools, libraries, things of that nature.
Because if you go through the state of Michigan, you have to do those kinds of things.
That's right.
You have to do workforce development. You have to provide benefits to the community, such as parks, playgrounds, urban greening, enhancement, safety crossings, paving roads, bike paths, things like that. If you go through the state, you also have to. Do you have to put a $70,000 grant in lieu of the state?
That, well, I'm not certain about.
That's in the legislation.
Yeah.
And of course, if you did it to the township, then you avoid that.
So to the first point, this is purely on tax revenue generated from the project. So the facilities that we install are all subject to IPP taxes based on the millage rates in the district. Given the size of the project, I mean, it's to the tune of millions of dollars in new tax revenue, in addition to the real property taxes that are being paid on the property. I think what you're talking about is a community benefits agreement, which is captured in the legislation. Regardless of whether we permit this project here or at the state, this is something that we are interested in entering into with the township. So if we do permit at the township, this is not a strict requirement of the project, but it is something that we would plan to do before we start construction regardless.
But it's not in the plan now.
Well, so this would be, it's a community benefits agreement that is different from the application that we've submitted. So it's a separate agreement that we would discuss before construction starts.
But if you do it through the state, you have to have it in.
Correct.
Now, you talked about the personal property tax that we were going to benefit from, but didn't Governor Whitmer make you exempt from the personal property tax on these instruments now? I thought she did.
Or is that coming up in November with the rest of it?
I mean, so what I can speak to is our experience on the Assembly Solar Project, which was our first in Michigan, the project in Shiawassee County, which is a little larger than this one. In the first couple of years of the project being operational, we paid a little over $6 million in new tax revenue.
To whom?
This was to the different taxing entities, so the county, the townships, fire department. The main recipient of the new tax revenue, though, is the schools, since they make up the majority of the millage rates.
Yes, ma'am.
Terry Goldstrom, Gustin. In the event that, let's say we have a huge weather thing come through here and all these solar panels are damaged, how are you guys, or who's ever owning this, how are they insured? Do we have to worry about them saying, oh geez, we're bankrupt? And the insurance company goes, well, we can't help you. Is there a fail-safe thing in there to make sure that the property owners aren't held accountable for all the hazmat and the removal of this?
Yes, there is. That's a part of our application to submit a decommissioning plan prior to the construction of the project. And as a part of that plan, we have to post financial security that covers the cost of decommissioning in some type of scenario like that. So that money would be set aside prior to construction start to cover the cost of decommissioning if that were to occur.
Been downstate and saw just rows and rows of those things toppled by the wind, just turned.
Gustin Township. So I kind of want to backtrack to what that gentleman keeps talking about is like, is there an end to this? So, okay, Gustin Township today, but like, is it going to affect any other townships in Alcona County? I mean, I don't know a whole lot about what's going on. I'm new to the party, but also, is the state of Michigan, is there like a cap as far as how much acreage per county can be solar panels? Because I feel like it's gonna take over everything if we don't have some sort of cap, whether we do that with, you know, this level or the state level, because.
Have you heard anything like that?
Nope, I don't think there's a cap.
No cap.
And yes, there are other townships in Alcona County with proposals.
Having conversations. Thank you.
We're just the lucky first. Anyone? Yes.
I have one last question. Fire. So after the solar panels, we're all assuming battery fields will be next. But if there are fires, because this is what alarmed us at the last general meeting that we had a lady come and speak who had just been to a 3-day conference for her local fire department, and she had to make us aware because they bill us, that if there is a fire, there are special hazmat masks that the firefighters have to wear because there are toxic chemicals in those panels. So the fire department will have to order special masks, special training, special foam for the event of a fire. But the most alarming, I mean, it's bad enough we're worried about our volunteer fire force that is minuscule, but on top of that, it is the responsibility of the fire department to have in place before the solar panel fields go operational, to have an emergency evacuation system in place for the entire county, because if in the event of a fire, the same reason the firefighters have to wear a specialized mask to filter out those chemicals, it creates a toxic plume of smoke that will just go on the breeze. And so the fire departments will have to have an emergency alert system in place to evacuate residents. So my question to you, Ranger, is who pays for that? Who pays for people to have to leave their homes for how long? Who determines it's safe to come back? And do we have to pay higher homeowners insurance to cover an event like that? God forbid. I mean, hopefully it never happens, but they do happen. I mean, rarely, but it does happen. So is that part of your bonded insurance plan for like the county in general that could be negatively impacted by such an event?
So from our perspective, I would just say what you're describing here, we have never encountered on any of our projects. We've been developing projects now for a long time. I mean,
It's never caught fire, so that's
correct.
good.
We have
That's
we have
good.
not encountered the issue that you're describing. The large evacuation plans are not common on these projects. I think because these types of fires that you're describing are not typical on these projects.
Yeah, they're rare, yeah.
That being said, like I said earlier, there is coordination still to be done between the project and local emergency responders to address what you're talking about. Ultimately, if there are shortfalls in equipment or resources, I think it's reasonable that these would be costs assessed to the developer of the project, not the residents of the community. So there is
that
more
would be
coordination to be done here. I mean, we're still early on in the process.
Okay, thank you.
When that PFAS leaks into the ground,
There's no PFAS.
none in them panels?
Nope.
Why can't they put them in
I don't know
the-
what's in the foam that the fire department has to use, but he says no. No PFAS in the foam.
Not anymore.
What is in the panels that's could be toxic to the environment?
There are no toxic materials in the panels.
So if one of them breaks, there's no problem?
Correct.
Anyone else? Okay. We turn it back over to Neil. Schedule the meeting for October 28th.
Okay, well, let's join the meeting at 8:25, but don't have the next meeting.
No, you have to ask the planning commission to vote on a special meeting for October 28th.
Oh, let's go ask for a special meeting for March, no, October 28th.
Yep.
I guess one was supposed to vote on for the ordinance. I get a second that.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's 8:35, we'll adjourn this meeting.
All those in favor? Neil?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, the meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody, to the next township board meeting on the third Monday of this month, and back on the 27th, for sure.